have their normal day just to ensure that humanity has a better place. And today we'll be looking at that and celebrating one of those. And to set the pace, we have one doctor who's known as Dr. Janet Givenchy, who we have a story about. We'd like to watch that little story before we engage and talk to her.
My real name is Dr. Janet Getenji. I am a consultant, obstetrician and gynecologist.
She's a gynecologist with a calling, focusing her efforts from the wardrooms into informal settlement areas.
Mbona teenage pregnancy inaenda juu?
Hatuna kitu kufanya sahi, unaona?
Na ni muhimu sana tujue what is flattening the curve.
It's a glimpse inside the life of a medic, speaking a language of the people.
Mimi naomba country yetu kwanza tuseme pics. Having been born and raised in Eastlands, I'm able to converse in Sheng, which is lugha yetu ya mtaa. Asymptomatic inamaanisha huyo mtu hana dalili. I work at Metropolitan Hospital, which is the largest hospital on the east side of Nairobi. I am 35 years old. I am a wife and mother of 2 children. And I also now am the founder and CEO of an initiative called Daktari wa Mtaa Initiative. So people also call me Daktari wa Mtaa.
When Daktari wa Mtaa was still a medical student 16 years ago, she would not have imagined her career would have taken the trajectory it has at the moment. Make no doubt, Janet Givenchy loves her job as an obstetrician. That is why patients like this one have always entrusted her with the responsibility of delivering their babies. Dr. Givenchy prepares for a routine medical checkup with a soon-to-be mother at the Metropolitan Hospital in Nairobi. She has worked at this facility for the last 2 years. But even though she enjoys what she does on a daily basis, Janet finds true fulfillment in advocacy. It is, after all, what has earned her the moniker Daktari wa Mtaa. But let me take you back to where it all began. December 2016, and the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union kick off what would become one of the longest industrial disputes in Kenya's history. It is during this time period that Dr. Givenchy's burning desire to make a difference finally kicked in.
At the height of the doctor's strike, there was a disconnect between what the doctors were saying they needed versus what the patients and the Kenyans at large thought the doctors were after. There was the collective bargaining agreement, CBA, which had 9 articles, but the article that used to keep on being highlighted was Article 4. But issues surrounding training of doctors, being posted in the right place, patients outside there getting the right ratios for doctors, all those things were not coming out.
One of those fights was for a better doctor-to-patient ratio, which would allow for more meaningful consultation and quality healthcare for all.
For the doctor, we might say things or use words that we think are simple to us, but to the patient is pure gibberish. But then they just say, okay, and the doctor thinks they've communicated, but they really haven't. So that in itself used to make me feel like I need to break things down a notch lower and come to the patients and explain to the patients in the least lay language, most simplest medical jargon broken down.
That is how in 2019, just 2 years after the strike, the Daktari wa Mtaa initiative was finally born.
Tunakonesha hapa kucheza kati, ama blada, ama kalongo, kwa nafika mali mnasema pics. Mimi naomba country yetu kwanza tuseme pics. Na kama kwa mtu aelewi hiyo part ya pics out, ulitatu mseme mtaani inamaanisha time out.
The program sees Dr. Givenchy leave the confines of the hospital and head out to mostly informal settlement areas to offer free medical consultation and community sensitization. Janet allowed us to accompany her on one of the sessions which would take place at the Kiambiu informal settlement area here in Nairobi.
Wasewasea. Niwaulize, vile sahi tuko hivi, kuko na social distance? Wacha nionyeshe kile tutafanya ndio tuweke nini? Mwanzo ulisema tutafanya nini tuoshe? Ya pili? Tuvae mask. Ya tatu? So tunaanza sahi kwanza na social distance, ndio?
Today, just like the many times she has done this before, she begins with the children.
Unasonga, anasonga. Mpaka uweke space. Hii inaitwa nini? Ni ya kazi gani? Ya kuzuia nini? Ya kuzuia corona. Sawa, sasa nataka nitawapatia mask moja, si ndio? Sawa sawa. Haya, nianze na nani?
Even though many of them here, like little David, may not fully comprehend the serious impact the coronavirus has had on health and the global economy, Janet knows too well that the pandemic is serious, and so she cannot afford to slack. As she continued educating the children at a nearby open field, we filmed as droves of people continued streaming in through a makeshift bridge connecting the slum to the nearby Jerusalem estate along the Nairobi River. Many of them hungry to get more knowledge from Dr. Getenji about the world's largest medical mystery.
Mama, unaelewa asymptomatic?
Sielewi. Asymptomatic inamaanisha huyo mtu hana dalili. Naweza kuwa wewe, mimi, wewe, labda tuko nayo. Lakini tuko tu hatuna shida, hatuna symptoms.
With each and every session, Janet chooses to use Sheng, a language very common in most informal settlement areas and which Dr. Getenji believes easily simplifies medical jargon.
Na nashukuru sana kunikaribisha hapa. Ingekuwa ni lazima, si ni kweli? So mimi nashukuru sana vile tumekam, na at least nataka tukitoka hapa kila mtu atakuwa amejua kitu. Game inaendelea. Tusemeni pics kwanza. Pics, Masanze pics, Gava pics, Raya pics. Tu pics si wote kwanza. Tujiulize tunaelekea wapi? Hii battle tutafight na tutawin, lakini lazima tuache kupigana mabao. Lazima tujue tuna fight one enemy na ako pale. Having been born and raised in Eastlands for pretty much a vast chunk of my life, I'm able to converse in Sheng, which is lugha yetu ya mtaa, and I realize that the only way is to actually talk to the patient as if nimeketi naye kwa base.
Today's session is interrupted by an ongoing football match, but Daktari wa mtaa moves the session just a few meters away before proceeding. This is Dr. Getenji's 6th such session. A medic who's decided to spread her tentacles from outside the wardrooms into neighborhoods such as this one, with the intention of covering nearly all the estates in the 17 constituencies that make up Nairobi County.
Sai cases zimefika 5,000. Hata nikidhani zimefika 5,000 na zitaendelea. Worldwide zinakaribia mita 10. Hapo ndio tumefika. Hii corona ni kama haishi na sisi.
Hii corona watoto wetu wanaongea vibaya. Wanasema hawaoni maiti, kitu ya kwanza. Kitu ya pili, hiyo ugonjwa ni watagiri. Mimi nasikianga hapa.
Tunataka barabara zifunguliwe. Sababu mtu akikufia hapa Nairobi kupeleka nyumbani ni shida.
Tuchore graph shikuto to extort. Inamaanisha hii namba inaonyesha mambo inaenda juu, si ndio? Haya. Tumeelewana hadi hapo. Hiyo line ya straight ni ile uwezo ambayo tuko nayo kwa hospitali, si ndio? Tuko na Mama Lucy ngapi? 1. Tuko na Kenyatta ngapi? Kweli ziko 3 sahi. Si mnasikia Wuhan kuna watu waliunda hospitali na siku 10. Sisi hatuna. Uwezo wetu ni ile tu.
And the slang doctor does not only focus on COVID-19 during her community-based sessions.
Mbona teenage pregnancy inaenda juu?
Hatuna kitu kufanya sahi. Unaona? Nyumba watu wamefungiwa.
Kuna vijana wamefanyia wasichana mchezo sana. Wanachukua wasichana wetu wakiwa shuleni, wanawapandika mimba na wanawawacha.
Each session lasts about 2 hours and includes every facet of society. At Kiambu, the focus group hopes Dr. Getenji's free session will go a long way in improving health standards at this slum.
Kwanza kwa daktari kama mimi napenda kumshukuru juu madokta Kenya ni wengi, lakini yeye amechukua time yake, ametutembelea sisi huku kutaka kujua inatupeleka aje. Tunamshukuru hiyo. Yeye ni wa kipekee, tuseme yeye ni wa kipekee kwa madaktari wote.
The mindful medic also uses YouTube to upload instructional videos meant to simplify medical terminologies for her audience, all in the hope that more and more Kenyans, especially at the grassroots level, will find better understanding of medicine and that doctors' consultations can also happen right at your doorstep.
Dr. Wamtaa has 5 prongs: tukutane, tusikizane, tuelimishane, tushauriane, na tushughulikiane. Those are the 5 pillars on which my vision stands. So tukutane, let's meet. Tusikizane, let's listen to one another. Tuelimishane, let me use what I have to explain and to learn. Tushauriane, let's advise one another. And then tushughulikiane, let us deal with everything together. Let me take care of you, and you take care of me, and together we'll have taken care of each other.
All right, and that is none other than Dr. Janet Givenchy, who's also known as Daktari Wamtaa. I'm a slang doctor, and we're privileged this morning to be talking to her as we look at World Humanitarian Day. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Janet Givenchy. Good morning, and well, first of all, congratulations on the good work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Now, just as we now look and commemorate this day, you certainly have been one who has been very consistent, and you are not doing this for recognition, but it's just something that you felt you needed to do. Maybe just walk us through what was that aha moment that made you feel that you needed to be a little bit different from other doctors who are going about their business as we have always known them to do.
Right. I have worked over the last 13 years now, and I have been able to interact with patients from all walks of life, from one county to another. And as doctors, we really do care. We really care about patients in this country. And I know that at any given point, there is no single patient who wakes up purposing to go to hospital. Anytime. A person usually wakes up planning to go to work, planning to go to hustle, planning to come in the evening with something to put food on the table. Every person wants to operate in dignity and integrity. So they land in the hospital because their health breaks down. And as a result, that is how me and the patient meet in the consultation room. Now, what inspired me to go outside the box is because I noticed that there's a very large disconnect sometimes between doctors and patients. Something happens in the consultation room where sometimes the patient feels unseen, unheard, and understood. And the doctor sometimes also feels like they have explained things, but truthfully, the medical jargon sometimes is still a little bit intense. The patient feels like they're not able to ask the doctor. Maybe they're feeling like they look stupid, or they feel like the question they'll ask is irrelevant. And there's that element where they see doctors like a God complex. So that disconnect sometimes also affects how people interact in the consultation room. I saw that gap, and I felt that I needed to bridge the gap and remember and remind everybody, first and foremost, doctors are people, patients are people. Let us discuss as people.
All right, does this have anything to do with your background? And the reason why I ask this is because we already have a certain mentality and way we look at doctors, which you've adequately explained. But we also have doctors who are, let me call it, too busy to come down to where they have to deal with nitty-gritties. I mean, it's a very long course that you have to do to become a doctor. Eventually, it looks like, it's there to make money. So is there a background that made you feel that you needed to go back to the community and literally just be at their level?
Yes, I'll just illustrate this very simply. Think of a pyramid. A pyramid looks like this, right? So there is the base, and then there's the apex. The apex cannot sustain if the base is not strong. The base is the grassroots. It is the grassroots population. And we are only as strong as our weakest link. I'll give you a case in point with COVID. If at the grassroots level we don't get it right, it doesn't matter what we do at the top. Because of my upbringing, I have been at the bottom, completely at the bottom. All right. At the same time, I've also been able to work my way, and I've also been at the top. I'm not at the very top, but at least I also know somewhere in the middle how to be. But I know that even the person at the bottom, the only thing that they have lacked is opportunity, is a chance to speak, is a chance to express themselves, and above all, a chance to be heard. So I go back to the base where I have also been, and I want to let them know, I hear you. I want them to know we are listening. I'm letting them know I will serve as a bridge between here and the top. I will ensure that your voice is heard where it needs to be heard.
All right.
And that is the reason why this inspires me.
Okay, and what are some of the lessons you'd like to share with us as we commemorate this day that you have learned just by that act of coming back to the community? You have a choice. You could have decided to, you know, just stay in the high-end hospitals and make a quick buck like many other doctors have done. But what lessons have you learned by just coming back to the community?
I realized a quote by Edmund Burke, which I love very much, and I use it in my everyday life. And it says, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is only when good men do nothing. That for me speaks to me. Secondly, at the end of the day, we all leave this earth. People have died yesterday, people have died the day before. And it takes a week or so, and after that, life goes on. The show must go on. The families grieve a little longer, but eventually people forget. So the question I usually pose to every single doctor or any single person who has any position of influence, when you die, what do you want to be remembered for? For me, I want to be remembered for doing something to people who could never repay me. That is all I would want to be remembered for. And that is what I would urge any doctor to do. Because yes, medicine is truly a calling. And we're always told, you treat a disease, you win some, you lose some. You treat a patient, you win no matter the outcome. So if you treat a patient like a human being, if you see this patient like a human being, if you're able to interact with this patient and have this patient break down more information for you, except to niko na homa, na wana tumbo, and maybe that person didn't even eat yesterday, reach out. Be the change that you want to see. Talk to this patient like a human being. See them for who they really are. And I'm promising you that this gap is going to close.
All right, now for anybody who has had a long-term ailment or a relative who has had one of those, they've gone through those rigors, and you realize that particularly in Kenya, medicine and seeing a doctor has almost become like a business. It's become very lucrative, which is unfortunate. Would you agree that that's the narrative, that's the way it is, or do you feel that that's unfair? Maybe from the patient's perspective, there are certain things we don't understand.
I will not say that it is unfair, because that patient also has got a right to be heard. But I'll say this one thing. It is not necessarily a business. Doctors provide a service, and then the service is remunerated. It is a gap in communication. It is also our economic levels that have got these issues. Because at the end of the day, if you come to a private facility, this is a business entity for somebody who has also invested in it and has also provided this service and is going to expect a return. There's a difference. You see, that's the first thing. Number two, some of the issues are usually systemic issues. Even sometimes when I'll discuss things with my patient, I always tell them, let us learn to compartmentalize. You and I are talking together on a clinical scenario. There are other systems because there are other prongs of government. And there are also other prongs within the systems in the healthcare system that are not linked to the doctor at all. Thirdly, a doctor is not just anybody who wears a lab coat. And that is something I believe many doctors would want me to reiterate. If I pick a butcher from Kiamaiko and I land them in a public hospital in the corridor with a lab coat, and I just tell them, say one thing, habari, habari, every person is likely to tell them, mzuri daktari. A doctor is not the one with a lab coat. Find out the name of your doctor. Find out that this person is truly a doctor. Because the biggest impediment between doctor and patient care in this country is that there is a middle person in the middle who masquerades as a doctor and is not a doctor. That needs to be fixed.
All right, and your thoughts on, what we need to do as a country to ensure that we have universal health coverage. We do know that's one of the projects that the government is trying to embark on, but sometimes we are left between what government has to say and what's on the ground. Maybe from your perspective, you can let us know. And just a quick reminder that the phone lines are open. If you have somebody maybe you'd like to celebrate on World Humanitarian Day, that is today, do let us know. Or if even you have comments that you'd like to pull through, you're welcome to do that. And the phone lines are now open. But to you, Daktari, how do we bridge that gap?
Right. I believe in the concept behind universal healthcare, that no Kenyan should have to be unable to access healthcare because they don't have money in their pocket. Worse, to sell everything they've ever owned and everything they've ever inherited in order to access care. That I am for, and I agree 100%. The best way is to strengthen the public health facilities. I want my grandmother, who lives in Monyange, Odhaya, to be able to access medication in the nearest dispensary. I want her to be able to access a doctor, a fully certified medical degree doctor within the village. That is the way we are going to achieve universal health care. We want that even this tier system, Kenyatta, to stop getting so congested, because we need the other level hospitals to be equipped and to be upgraded to almost level 5, level 6 hospitals at grassroots level. The way forward is to go back to the grassroots. Equip it as if you, the rich person, was the one living there. Remember the story of our Honorable Gakuru. At the point at which the accident occurred, he was taken to the nearest health facility. So if that health facility does not have what it needs to have, ole wako. So we need to equip that area with infrastructure, with equipment, with human personnel that is certified and qualified. And you will notice a trend. You will notice a shift in the healthcare space in this country.
All right, and as we wind up, Doctor, I almost called you Doctari, but anyway, I guess that's still
it's
a
okay.
good term.
Yes, yes,
Doctari Janet Givenchy, your closing remarks and just your message to people out there, and specifically, I guess, doctors, as we admire and celebrate you on this day.
Right. To doctors, I'll say to doctors and to patients. To doctors, let us communicate, and not to communicate in a way that we think we have communicated. Confirm with the patient. Ask them to repeat what you have said. Understand it the way they have understood it. Let there not be a gap. Lay everything on the table. Discuss freely. Let us feel these patients. I know that we have it in us, and I know we have been doing it, and I know that patients think we don't like them. Let them know that we care, and let us be these very amazing Kenyan doctors that we know we are. To the patients, I will speak in the language I speak with you guys. Maze, sisi tunawapenda. Mimi nawapenda na roho yangu yote, hakuna mahali nimejibakishia. Ninawapenda sana. Ongea na daktari wako na wacha kumuogopa. You have got a right. You have got a right to sit there and to ask every question to the level of your satisfaction. Feel heard. Articulate yourself. Do not hold anything back. Speak freely, speak wholly,